What if the most visited place on earth was never built to last? The story of Dubai Mall doesn't begin with success. It begins with risk, with ambition. With a gamble so large, it could either redefine the future or collapse under its own weight. Back in 2004, the world was intoxicated by cheap money. Credit was easy, construction was booming, and Dubai decided to go all in, not just another mall, not just another project, but a structure so massive it would pull the entire world into one place. This wasn't built for the people who lived there. It was built for people who hadn't arrived yet. A global funnel, a magnet for tourists, a machine designed to turn attention into spending. By the time it opened in 2008, the scale was already beyond logic. Over 13 million square feet, the size of more than 200 football fields combined. But here's what makes this story unsettling. It opened at the worst possible moment in modern financial history. The global financial crisis was spreading across the world. Banks were failing, jobs were disappearing, entire economies were gasping for air. And right in the middle of that chaos, Dubai opened the largest shopping mall on earth. It was like throwing the most extravagant party, while the rest of the world couldn't even afford to eat. But here's the part most people never talk about. This empire almost didn't survive its first breath. Behind the grand opening, behind the lights and glass, there was a hidden lifeline, a $20 billion bailout, emergency funding from Abu Dhabi. Without it, the dream would have ended before it even began. This wasn't organic growth. This was borrowed survival. A system built not on stability, but on future promises. Debt disguised as ambition. And inside the mall, the tension was real. More than 1,000 retailers stepped in, but not with confidence, with hesitation, with fear. Because outside those polished glass doors, the real estate bubble was collapsing. Every square meter of that mall carried the weight of uncertainty. Every brand, a silent question. Will this work? Or are we standing inside something that's already too big to sustain? The design itself tells a deeper story. Long corridors, endless pathways, a layout that pulls you forward and makes it hard to leave. Not built for comfort, built for consumption. Because this wasn't just architecture, it was psychology. A carefully engineered environment where spending feels natural and stopping feels difficult. And that's what makes Dubai Mall so powerful and so dangerous. It represents a new kind of belief system, not built on culture, not built on tradition, but built on consumption. Luxury as identity, shopping as purpose. But underneath all that shine, there was a contradiction no one wanted to face. How can something built on debt represent real prosperity? How can a system dependent on constant inflow ever be stable? This wasn't a foundation. It was a balancing act. And like all balancing acts, it only works. Until it doesn't. Dubai had climbed onto something powerful, but dangerous. Because once you climb onto the back of a tiger, you don't get to stop. You can only run faster. And for a while, it worked. But instead of collapsing, something strange happened next. It didn't just recover, it took over the world. After surviving the crisis, Dubai Mall didn't slow down. It accelerated, faster than anyone expected, faster than logic allowed. In 2009, the numbers began to rise. 37 million visitors in a single year, then 65 million, then over 90 million, each year breaking its own record. This wasn't just growth. This was domination. The mall wasn't competing with other malls anymore. It was competing with cities, entire global destinations, and winning. At its peak, more people walked through these doors than visited some of the most iconic cities on earth. Let that sink in. A single building outperforming entire nations in attraction. Then came the next evolution. Dubai Shopping Festival. What started as a sales event became something else entirely. A global migration. Millions of people flying in. Not for culture, not for history, but for discounts. 5 million visitors in just 30 days. It wasn't shopping anymore. It was a ritual. An annual pilgrimage into consumption. And inside the mall, something even more calculated was happening. This wasn't random success. It was engineered. Every corner was designed to capture attention, to hold it, to stretch it, to turn time into spending. Take the human waterfall. Divers frozen midair, cascading down walls. A tribute to pearl divers of the past, but also something else. A visual anchor. A moment that stops you, makes you look, makes you stay. Then there's the Dubai Dino, a 155 million-year-old skeleton, standing silently among fashion stores. Ancient extinction, placed beside modern consumption. A contrast so powerful, yet almost no one notices it, because attention here is constantly redirected. From meaning to movement, from reflection to spending. And then come the brands. Luxury logos everywhere. Not just products anymore, symbols, status, identity. This is where the shift happened. Shopping stopped being an activity It became a language, a way to signal power without saying a word, and Dubai Mall became its global stage. But behind this spectacle, a more fragile system was forming. Dubai's economy was changing. It was no longer just oil, it was tourism, retail, a constant inflow of global money, and that created a dangerous equation. If people keep coming, it grows. If they stop, it cracks. There was no middle ground. This wasn't stability, this was dependency, a system that had to expand or risk collapse. And expansion is exactly what they chose. Fashion Avenue, Zabeel extension, bigger spaces, more brands, more experiences, each addition making the mall more powerful, but also more exposed, because size creates pressure. The bigger it gets, the more it needs to survive. And slowly, a belief started to form, unspoken, but dangerous. Too big to fail? Records kept breaking, crowds kept growing, confidence turned into certainty, and certainty turned into blindness. Because when something works for too long, people stop questioning it, they stop seeing the risks, they stop preparing for change, and that's when systems become fragile, not when they are weak, but when they feel invincible. Dubai Mall had become a machine, a perfectly tuned system of attention, movement, and spending. But like all machines, it had one weakness. It depended on everything, staying normal. And then, something invisible arrived, something no expansion plan could stop, something no system could predict, and in a matter of moments, it exposed everything. You were never a visitor, you were data. After 2020, Dubai Mall didn't just recover from global disruption, it evolved. Not into a better mall, but into something far more controlled. By 2023, it crossed 100 million visitors. By 2024, it peaked at 111 million. But those numbers don't tell the real story, because every person entering was no longer just a customer. They were a data point. Behind the polished glass and luxury stores, a silent system was watching, learning, optimizing. Over 1,300 AI-powered cameras tracking movement, smart mirrors suggesting what you should wear next, notifications hitting your phone before you even realize what you want. This wasn't shopping anymore, it was programming, a controlled ecosystem where behavior could be predicted and influenced. The mall had become something else entirely. Not a city, not a marketplace, but a simulation. A place where everything felt real, but nothing was truly organic. Convenience replaced connection, speed replaced experience, and privacy became a luxury no one could afford. For a moment, it seemed unstoppable, a perfect system, controlled, optimized, predictable, until reality stepped in. March 2026, and everything changed. Geopolitical tensions erupted across the Middle East. Airspace became unstable. Flights were delayed, then canceled. Travel slowed, then stopped. And suddenly, the flow broke. Within weeks, foot traffic dropped by 45%. Almost half the people gone, just like that. The same halls that once held hundreds of thousands daily now echoed with silence. Luxury stores felt it first. Revenue dropped nearly 60%, not because people lost money, but because they stopped coming. And that's when the real weakness was exposed. This system wasn't self-sustaining. It depended on the world. Tourists from Russia, buyers from China, spenders from India, remove them, and the machine struggles to breathe. Then came the second shock, supply chains. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical trade routes on Earth, became unstable. Shipping costs surged, delays multiplied, luxury goods couldn't arrive, and suddenly, it wasn't about demand anymore, it was about access. Even the biggest brands felt the pressure. LVMH, one of the most powerful luxury groups in the world, saw its valuation drop. Billions erased in weeks. Stores began shutting down. Not because they failed, but because the environment became too risky, too unstable, too unpredictable. And in that moment, something became clear. All the technology, all the AI, all the optimization, it couldn't stop fear, it couldn't stop war, it couldn't fix broken logistics. The system was advanced, but it wasn't resilient because it was built for efficiency, not survival. And when reality hit, efficiency collapsed instantly. Dubai Mall didn't fail because of bad design. It didn't fail because of lack of demand. It faltered because the world it depended on stopped functioning. And that's the hidden truth behind every global system. They look powerful until something interrupts the flow. But what broke next wasn't the system. It was human desire. The rich stopped showing off, not gradually, not quietly, but almost overnight. The signals changed. For years, luxury meant visibility. Big logos, loud statements, instant recognition. But after the shock of 2026, that definition started to feel outdated, even dangerous. A new pattern began to emerge. Quiet luxury, no logos, no noise, just quality. Consumers weren't trying to impress anymore. They were trying to protect. Spending shifted from impulse to intention, from status to substance. People began choosing things that last, durable items, practical investments, long-term value. And that shift hit Dubai Mall at its core. A 60% drop in luxury retail revenue wasn't just a number, it was a rejection of everything the system was built on. Logo-driven consumption, status-based identity, the need to be seen. Because when uncertainty rises, visibility becomes risk. And in a world filled with instability, blending in becomes the new power. Dubai had no choice but to respond. Not with expansion this time, but with transformation. Sustainability became the new narrative. Solar panels generating millions of kilowatt hours, recycling programs handling thousands of tons of waste, green certifications across hundreds of stores. On paper, it looked like evolution, but in reality, it was survival. Because when the old model stops working, you don't adapt out of vision, you adapt out of necessity. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Even with all these changes, the dependency didn't disappear. Retail still drives a major part of the economy. Tourism still fuels the system. The machine is still running, just with a different skin. But something deeper has changed. Luxury itself. It's no longer about being seen. It's about being secure. Less attention, more control, less display, more durability. And that transformation reveals something bigger than Dubai, something global. The mall is no longer just a mall. It's a mirror, reflecting a world that feels uncertain, unstable, unpredictable. Because when confidence disappears, consumption changes. And when consumption changes, entire systems shift. This wasn't just a decline in foot traffic. It wasn't just a drop in revenue. This was something deeper. This wasn't the fall of a mall. It was the collapse of an idea. The idea that endless growth is sustainable, that visibility equals value, that luxury means excess. And now, we're left with a question. In a world this unstable, what is real wealth?